Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Sid Alpha and welcome to Line of Sight, the exclusively games weekly news roundup. It's been another interesting week in video games, but at least for this week's video, I'm feeling a bit more rested, a bit more alert, and thanks to the shenanigans of the AAA industry, a lot more humorously entertained. Before we get into the news for this week, I thought it best to take a moment to talk to you all about our Lord and Savior bacon. Yes, bacon. Whether it be fried, baked, chopped, deep fried, served by itself in a sandwich, on a steak, or in a salad, bacon is the food that makes all other foods worth having. Hashtag not sponsored by bacon. Also, in case you haven't heard, there's this amazing new website that I just heard about called exclusivelygames.com. Have you heard of it? I sure haven't, at least not until now. It's this fan-supported website that gives you ad-free gaming news with talented journalists that have no interest in pushing any sort of political ideology or narrative and are instead focused purely on gaming and gaming news. It sure would be a shame if you all went and checked it out, and it'd be an even bigger shame if you clicked on that link to the site that I placed conveniently down in the description below, along with links to the timestamps for this video to skip the intro or to go to any of the individual stories in this video.
A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat. Hey,
Are you trying to sell something?
selling. Very good, very good. Oh, wicked, you're wicked, eh?
But I think it's time to get to why we're all really here, if you take my meaning, say no more. For this week, we have Electronic Arts gets a real sense of pride and accomplishment as they get into the Guinness Book of World Records for most downvoted comment in Reddit history. After years of silence, the developer of Cube World resurfaces to announce the game's upcoming release on Steam, and it was discovered that per the Steam developer agreement, many Epic Games exclusive titles could be considered to be in breach of contract. And now that we're all queued up, let's get started. Electronic Arts has been mocked, ridiculed, and laughed at so many times in recent years, the corporation themselves have all but become a meme at this point, but never was it more true than with Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA, a game that initially attempted one of the more egregious displays of pay-to-win loot box monetization in recent memory for anyone that hasn't played a sports game from the same company or from 2K Games. And as a result of Electronic Arts continually putting foot into mouth, as it were, they have been officially recognized for their efforts in the Guinness Book of World Records of all places. For those of you that don't remember or didn't know how all of this came about, allow me to fill you in. During the height of the controversy surrounding the loot boxes and the pay-to-win microtransactions planned for Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA, Electronic Arts managed to fumble a fair amount of times before DICE themselves issued an apology and the monetization system was scrapped. The controversy surrounding the comments in question came from an Electronic Arts response to this Reddit post, where a person was outraged that they had paid $80 for the game and Darth Vader was still a locked character. In response, an Electronic Arts representative posted the following. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. As for cost, we selected initial values based upon data from the open beta and other adjustments made to milestone rewards before launch. Among other things, we're looking at average per-player credit earn rates on a daily basis, and we'll be making constant adjustments to ensure that players have challenges that are compelling, rewarding, and of course attainable via gameplay. We appreciate the candid feedback and the passion the community has put forth around the current topics here on Reddit, our forums, and across numerous social media outlets. Our team will continue to make changes and monitor community feedback and update to everyone as soon and as often as we can. I feel kind of dirty reading that. That post quickly became one of the most downvoted comments in Reddit's history within the first 24 hours, and the last time I'd personally looked in on the posting, it had about 500,000 downvotes. The post currently sits at 683,000 downvotes, dwarfing its nearest competitor that sits at a still very impressive 88,900 downvotes. In honor of this accomplishment, on the main Star Wars subreddit, the user Amshot posted this image from the Guinness Book of World Records that reads, "Most downvoted comment on Reddit." An official post by video games publisher Electronic Arts responding to players' complaints about having to unlock characters such as Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in Star Wars Battlefront 2 through loot boxes has 683,000 downvotes. This controversy surrounding the Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA loot box monetization galvanized gamers against Electronic Arts for a time, which resulted in the entire monetization system for Star Wars Battlefront 2 being scrapped. Despite their initial assurances that the monetization was not designed to impact gameplay, the absence of the pay-to-win microtransactions were clear and evident until the game was completely rebalanced months later to compensate for the lack of pay-to-win loot boxes. Since then, DICE have made great strides in producing confusing content that would hopefully entice players back, but many recall quite clearly, whether in anger, derision, or humor, the statements and subsequent actions taken by Electronic Arts surrounding that controversy. And while the statement has been and will continue to be a meme for many gamers, in this instance, Electronic Arts finally has an achievement that can grant them a real sense of pride and accomplishment. Cube World. Now, there's a name I've not heard in a long time. Back in 2013, Pichroma released an alpha version of the voxel-style open-world RPG that contained procedural generation. A very promising game 6 years ago, players ended up having a great deal of trouble accessing the game due to two particular reasons. The first was simple popularity. The game, even in its alpha state, was wildly popular, as many voxel-style games are due to the quote-unquote Minecraftian feel of games of that type, which caused a bit of a flood on the game's website. The second was due to something not quite as wholesome as a fun game becoming popular: regular DDoS attacks against the game's site. This caused all sorts of difficulty with the game, and as a result, the developer went radio silent. On October 20th, 2013, the developer posted on Twitter assuring worried players about the lack of communication and updates. Since then, the game has been considered to be, for all intents and purposes, dead, with no new updates and a developer that had seemingly disappeared. That is, until recently. On September 7th, the developer unexpectedly returned out of the blue with a surprising announcement. On his blog, he posted the following. Dear Cube World community, I think this is the right place for this. This is where it all started, where my little passion project came to life and became something much bigger. Here is my explanation why everything took me so long, why there were no updates, and so on. When I released Cube World back in 2013 on our homepage, I was enthusiastic to finally share my game with you. It was a dream come true for me. I wanted to be a game developer since I was a kid. As some of you might remember, we got DDoSed as soon as we opened the shop. It might sound silly, but this event traumatized me and kind of broke something inside me. I never told anyone about it, and I don't want to go into the details, but I'm dealing with anxiety and depression ever since. Social media didn't improve it, as you might imagine. I'm still not sure if it's a good idea to tell the world about it, but I wanted to give the fans an explanation. There were several points in the past years where I considered releasing an update, but every time I was afraid it wasn't good enough. I'm also a bit of a perfectionist, and it made me rework everything from scratch several times. The version I'm planning to release is basically Cube World 2.0. There are still many things I'd like to add in the future, but I think this version is already fun. I hope some of you will enjoy the upcoming release. I'm currently working on the new homepage and still want to add some lore-related things to the game before the release. And sure enough, Pichroma posted a Steam store page for Cube World with a to-be-announced release date. And while the game hasn't seen any form of update since 2014, it will be interesting to see what the developer has in store for both new players and players that might choose to return to the game after all these years. Our final story for the week involves the Epic Games Store and their war via paid exclusives to replace Steam as their preeminent PC distribution platform. We've seen the troubles and the controversies caused by Epic Games Store exclusives with Metro Exodus, MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, Shenmue 3, and many others. However, it would seem that many of these games could very well have been potentially in breach of contract with Valve by signing a paid exclusive with Epic Games. This story was originally reported on by Sid Alpha. Oh yeah, that's me. Hi guys. On Sunday, discussing a specific clause of the Steam distribution agreement that has been circulating the internet in recent days. This clause states the following. Companies shall submit the applications to Steam for release no later than the first commercial release of each application or localized version, or, if already commercially released as of the effective date, within 30 days of the effective date. Therefore, companies shall submit to Steam any localized version and application updates in beta and final form when available, but in no event later than they are provided to any other third-party commercial release. Companies shall provide these copies in object code form in whatever format Valve reasonably requests. And while it was initially reported by me that this was being touted as a new clause, several people on Twitter were quick to point out that the clause had already existed to begin with. So, as I had gone through all of the necessary developer signing and documentation back in 2017 myself for reasons that I'm sure in no way equated to hunting down asset flippers and dirty devs more efficiently, I myself had a copy of the Steam distributor agreement from late 2017 that I didn't even realize I had, and sure enough, the clause was indeed present. Now, it is important to define some terms within legal documents, which is why the definitions are posted at the top. In that agreement, it defines the term applications as the following. Applications shall mean the company computer games or other applications specified in connection with the agreement completion process, or otherwise provided by company to Valve for distribution over Steam, including, upon delivery to Valve, any application updates and any localized versions of such applications. Applications include only the versions of such games or applications that operate on Windows, Macintosh, or Linux operating systems, or other operating systems supported by Steam in the future. This definition is important as this process is undergone when a developer signs up to be able to sell their game on Steam. Which means, per the distribution clause circulating the internet, that would mean games such as Metro Exodus, MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, and Shenmue 3 are potentially in breach of contract by not distributing their games on the Steam storefront and are instead taking money from Epic Games in the doing. As this clause hasn't been around for some time, it will be curious what Valve will do, if anything, due to this information. But that's all the time we have for you on this week's Line of Sight. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy these videos and like having me hang out over here, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons and drop us a comment down below, preferably something bacon related. If you would like to hear more of my own thoughts on these topics and others, you can do so by checking me out on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/SidAlpha. Link is in the description below, but either way, we'll see you next week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am Sid Alpha, and I'll see you next time.